Well, here we are again. So I just did the video where I put a new head gasket on this thing. It's been about a month ago, and I've used it quite a bit. Disked and planted most of my garden. I still have, well, I disked all the corn where I plant my corn. So I've done a lot of work with it, and I've ran it hard, and apparently too hard. So she's back in here again. Let me show you what happened. So we're back in the barn again, and get it to focus. You can see how milky it is. It's actually not as bad. I guess some of the water is settled. So we've blown a head gasket, and I guess it was my fault. Well, I mean, it absolutely was. I overheated it, and somehow, some way, I don't know if I've got a leak somewhere or what, but I was gonna put a thermostat on this thing. I was gonna put a temperature gauge on this thing, and I just didn't get to it. I had too much going on and didn't do it, and overheated it. So normally, I can always tell when this thing's getting hot, and for some reason, I just didn't catch it. And I went through, I checked the oil, and I checked the antifreeze level before I got on the tractor and started disking. And I filled it up again, just because I was gonna try it, but it's smoking really bad. And just overheated it and blew the gasket. Hopefully, that's all I blew was the gasket. So now I'm gonna tear it all apart again and do it all over. But hopefully it's just the gasket, and that won't be a big deal because it's got to take the hood off, the gas tank off, and should be able to. I think that's all I'm gonna have to take off. But I think this time I'm gonna put a new water pump on it, and I got to figure out where it was leaking, because when I got it back into the barn after it had overheated and started smoking on me, it was over, I think it was 1.5 gallons low. So it pretty much blew out all the coolant. And it was, I think I'm gonna get a new cap too, because it was spewing a little out of here previously, and I don't know if that's where it came from, if this cap just doesn't feel super tight. If it was just blowing it out because the cap was too loose, it just needs a new cap, or it was leaking somewhere else, I don't know. But I couldn't find any leaks or anything, so we're just gonna have to tear it apart and do it all over again. So I got all my dash bolts out, got the air cleaner vent out, and you don't have to unwire anything except the headlights, which thankfully last time I was smart and actually put some disconnects in here. Well, 2 hands. So I'm draining the fuel out, and yeah, I'm just gonna do it all over again. Gotta get my hood bolts out. I wish this thing, it's a shame it won't just fold up, but I don't think there's no way it'll go over the radiator. And one thing I did mess up, I could see it was shooting out a little bit of coolant right there. Can't really see it, can't get it to focus. But anyway, the vent's right there, and I broke that little nipple and the hose off whenever I put it back on. Actually broke it off when I took it off, tried to solder it back on, broke it again when I tried to put it back on. So yeah, but hopefully it won't be too bad. And I know the valves are good, so I don't have to mess with that. I won't have to take the manifold off or anything. So it should be, I mean, I might actually be able to get this thing done today. We'll see. Well, here we go. So fought that thing for about 10-15 minutes. I'm getting better. I'm getting better at getting these hoods off. They're a pain, but doing it by yourself is definitely a pain. But all you got to do is get this up and then bring the whole thing forward a little bit. Grunt a lot, say a few choice words, and then finagle it around this, and it comes right off. So it's not too bad. As long as you drain all the gas out, it's not too bad. So I went ahead and I drained the radiator because, you know, but I've got to find where I'm leaking or where all the water came from. It's not all in the motor because the oil is just, it was right on the full mark. And I mean, it may have put a 1/2 quart of water in there, if that. So there's not much water in there, unless it all went through the cylinders and out the exhaust, which is very possible. Oh, Lord help me. So Yeah, there's a lot of water in it. But the more I think about it, I've been trying to figure out, I've been looking everywhere. I can't find any sign of a leak. I looked the other day when it was hot. So all that fluid had to have either come out here, which it was spewing pretty good, and I could tell it was getting hot, but I didn't think it was that hot. I just assumed, because these things don't have a reservoir, and if you have excess in there, it blows it out. I just assumed I had too much in there and it was blowing it out. But I don't think it didn't blow a gallon and a half out. So it had to go right out the exhaust. That's the only place I can think of that it went. But unfortunately, this brand new filter is now junk. Well, we're getting somewhere. It's going all right. So I got the oil filter housing off, got that drain set aside, and then took my 2 head bolts out to hold my tube in. And I'm just going to use the old impact and take the rest of them out and probably cry when I flip this thing open. So hopefully not too bad. I don't know. I keep thinking, I'm worried that what really gets me is I'm worried if this could be blocked, if the head could be blocked, or the block could be blocked. I can't speak. See, I'm so worried I can't even talk. I could be, I don't think that the head is cracked or the block is cracked. I really, really hope it's not. And I don't think I'm going to take it to the machine shop to check, just because I'm going to just do it. And oh yeah, one thing I did want to do is pull that plug out and drain the block. And you know, it's just going to be what it's going to be. We're going to see. The one thing I will say, I think one thing that definitely didn't help when I was reading on the torque sequence and everything in the book, and it said to run it for a while. I can't remember how long. Run it for a while and then retorque it. Well, I got kind of busy and didn't, and just kind of pushed it onto the wayside. Said, no, I think it'll be okay. I put a Velcro gasket and sealed it really good with the copper seal. Should be fine. It wasn't fine enough for overheating. And you know, it could have just blown out anyway because it got hot. I don't know. But that could have definitely led to the failure. So that didn't help, I don't think. But we're gonna go ahead and try to get all this done. I finally got her busted loose. She was on there. So, holy. Yeah. So, she's definitely not great, but it could just be some of the water in the head too. Totally forgot to drain the block. Well, there's definitely some water in here, and you know, I kind of pissed off at myself I didn't drain the block first to get some of the water out of this head, but I don't think there was much in there. But it looks definitely like this cylinder right here has definitely got water in it. I don't know if that was from just pulling the head off or from actually being wet, but oh man. So it looks like kind of my same areas I was concerned about were probably the culprit. It's amazing how freaking dirty this thing is now. Even though I just tore it apart and cleaned the snot out of it. But I mean, you can see all the crap already in the heads. It's amazing. That one's got like a, I don't even know. This one's definitely wet. Because I mean, that should be kind of the telltale sign, because the top of the cylinder should not be wet. But this one's definitely wet. And this one, I don't know. They look like they're all kind of wet to me. A little bit, but this one and the back one, I guess 2 and 4 are definitely had some issues. So I'm just gonna try to get all this crap cleaned up, and that's weird. Unless this was the culprit and that's why it's so clean. And that's kind of what I'm wondering, because that should not, I mean, all the other exhaust valves are just, well, that's the intake, but I mean, this one's clean as can be. So I think that one was actually the one. I don't know. I'm just speculating and guessing. Somebody that's actually knows what they're doing, leave a comment. Let me know. Well, I've been working on getting it cleaned up, and I've been just spinning it over, getting the pistons, trying to get the valves closed whenever I'm cleaning around them. And one thing I have noticed, this is the piston, or this is the piston sleeve that I put the retaining compound in, and I've turned it over pretty quick. She's still holding in there good, so that's one good thing. Now I know. Whew, that's some nasty stuff. Gosh, I hate it. But that's what it is. Well, here we go again. So, new head gasket, different brand though. This is one I got when I ordered all my other parts, and I think I got it because I needed the valve guide seals and it came with it. So luckily I had one. So we're gonna go throw it on. I cleaned all the cylinders up, blew all the water out, oiled them up really good, and got everything good and clean. So hopefully it'll be good to go. Well, I just pulled my fan out, and it was just 4 little bolts. And I did soak those down. So next weekend I soaked them down with Deep Creep or WA-40 all week, just to make sure, because they were looking a little rough. So there's nothing wrong that I can tell with this water pump, but I'm just assuming since it's been on here, probably, I don't know if it's original or not, but it's been on here for a long time. So I'm just gonna go ahead and replace it, because I obviously have had an overheating issue, hence why we're doing the whole head gasket again. But got the new one and got it hanging up and painting it, and as soon as it's dry I'm gonna go ahead and slap it on, but I'm gonna get this one off in the meantime. All right, I finally got her broke loose here. That bottom bolt was a little bit of a bear. Ooh. Oh man, there we go. Huh. It really doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. But it's hard to say. The clearances in this thing are probably pretty tight originally, but I can't tell. I'm gonna say that it's probably been replaced at some point, but hard to say. So I was reading that you could put the temperature sensor in here, and the hole's obviously not big enough, so it would have to be drilled out, and that hole is way out center, not centered. So from everything else I read, you can put it up here where it was actually, this little boss was made. And surprisingly, this one is a 49, and I don't think the bosses, from what I thought, didn't start till like 52. But luckily this one's got one, so I've been working on drilling it out. And I'm gonna use a 3/8 pipe thread because that's what I've got, tap I have. So we're getting there. It's trying to do it nice and slow. I probably should have done this before I put the head on, but you know, hindsight's 20/20. So here we go. So I couldn't make my mind up on the gauge that I wanted, so I just ended up ordering this one off Amazon. So it's Dorman, and I didn't know, I couldn't remember what pipe thread I had, what pipe tap I had, so I just ordered the one with all of them, and it was only about 30 bucks. So, and that's the tap I luckily had. I bought it literally just for the drill bit, for something for working on guns, and came with a 37/64 bit and the type pipe thread. So luckily I had that. I got her drilled out to 37/64, and I'm just very carefully going through and trying to get this thing tapped a little at a time. Go back, and I'm getting ready to pull it out and blow it off, and then put some more oil on it. So it's gonna take my time on this one, because even though I probably could use a new head, I don't really want to buy one at this moment. So it's gonna keep going, blowing it off, adding some more oil, And I've already went through with my little magnet, and as I'm going through, I'm just kind of trying to get all these little metal shavings out. And I went through, and luckily I've got the hose off, so I've got pretty much all of them out. I don't think there's any in there. If I needed to, I haven't torqued the head down, I could take it off, but I've got the copper spray on the gasket. And I don't really, it's probably already adhered a little bit, and I don't really want to take it off unless I have to. So I didn't torque it down because to get the water pump off, I couldn't torque down the 2 center bolts because of the tube that holds the spark plug wires. So I've just put that off, got it on, so really there's no moisture getting in there, hopefully, and the cylinders aren't going to get a little surface corrosion on them. So I'm going to take it nice and slow. Well, to say it's going great would be a lie. So I'm not 100% sure how to spec this pipe tap is, or how to spec my fitting is. So I got it in probably a 1/4 inch shy, and just wanted to check because I want a pretty snug fit where hopefully this thing doesn't leak. So it's threading in really good, but I'm just a touch off. I think just a little bit more and it'll be perfect. So I want it a little snug, but you know, not too snug, because I'm going to put some tape on there or some sealant. But whenever I got started, which normally I have a love-hate relationship with taps, and it started about perfect, and then it went about like that. I was like, oh crap. So I backed out, tried starting it again, finally got it in going nice and even. And the threads aren't great for the first, well, it actually cleaned it up pretty dang good. Kind of hard to see in there, but it looks pretty good in there. I'll give it a B+. Could have done better on the start, but without a tap holder of this size, I think 3/4 tap holder, it's a little difficult. But we got her, we're getting there. So I'm gonna lube it up again. I got it good and cleaned off, went with the magnet, got all the chips out. I'm gonna lube it up again and probably go maybe an 1/8 or 1/16 shy of all the way. I'm gonna assume this one's pretty spec, so I want it just a little bit tighter than standard, so hopefully it won't leak, but we'll see. Well, I got her in there, and she's just about right, I think. I'm just, you know, 1/8, 1/16 shy, finger tight, so put a wrench on there, get it turned with Teflon tape. I think that'll be pretty good. So now I'm just gonna get everything cleaned up. I got everything cleaned up from my water pump. Do a little touch up on that. Paint should be dry on it, and we're gonna get it slapped on and get this thing going. All right, I got it on, and I did go ahead and put some new lock washers on there, and the ones that were on there were pretty rough. And I'm gonna definitely put some on there for the fan, and probably a little Loctite, just because that fan comes off, that would be no bueno. So I did put a new gasket and some RTV on both sides of the gasket, just to hope that it doesn't leak. And after my little governor episode where I got the governor back on and it leaked like a sieve, I've been a little hesitant on not RTVing everything. So hopefully we won't have that issue again. I don't know what happened. I can't remember. I think I did put a little RTV on there, but for whatever reason, whenever I put the governor on, it did not want to seal for nothing, and oil was coming out everywhere. So not bad, but it was dripping out a little bit as I was running it, and I don't like that. So if you don't keep an eye on it, don't catch that, that could be bad. So just gotta get this thing tightened down and the fan back on, and we're good. Well, the first time I took this thing apart and put the head gasket on, I just took this radiator hose off and chucked it in the trash can. I completely forgot that thermostats are inside the radiator hose, and I don't honestly even know if it had one in it. I wish I had the old hose to see, but I don't think it did. It seems like I would have remembered, you know, it would have been pretty hard in one area and would have noticed that. But from what I understand, pointy end up towards the radiator and close to the head. So that's what I understand from what I've been reading. So that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so I got her in there finally, and I just kind of had to work it back and forth to get it up in there. I might have got it just a little too deep. I forgot how short that was, but close enough. So one thing I always do is I butter it up with a little RTV before I put the hose on. Well, we're getting there slowly but surely. I went ahead, I got the oil filter housing on, put some oil in there, a new Wix filter, and that other one only had like 10 hours on it, if that. So I got everything wired in. I mean, that was a chore, the whole 2 wires. I mean, I guess it's 6, but lights don't really count. I can't put those on until the hood's on. And just got to go ahead, tighten up my alternator belt and check everything over, and I think we're ready for the hood. I got this fitting in, and I'm gonna I may wait until I get the hood on. That's gonna be pretty easy to access, and then I can kind of figure out how I want to route that really long wire that's just gonna go probably, I don't know, I haven't decided. I really wish I would put my voltmeter down here somewhere. I haven't decided how or where. Maybe right here. That's a little bit curved though. I want it where I can see it, like it's gonna stand out. I thought about getting a little mount right here, but we'll see. I'm gonna figure it out. I've got a hole over here or something. I don't know what that was for, or I don't even remember. But anyway, that wasn't on there. That was on there when I got it. So I don't know, but we'll see. So I got all the head bolts torqued down, and I started out just kind of increments went up and all the way up to 70. So I'm gonna actually try to remember. Well, I'm not gonna try. I'm going to remember this time. I'm gonna run it for an hour, and then I'm gonna retorque it and just check everything and make sure everything's good. It's gonna be a pain in the butt with the hood on, but it is what it is. So I guess all there is to do, tighten up that alternator belt and get this heavy freaking hood back on. Well, we got her all put back together. As far as I can remember, at least. Hopefully everything's good. So the gauge was a little bit of a pain, not as much as the hood, but I was proud of myself. I actually remembered to put the grill in this time before I tightened up these 2 bolts. So that was good. So I ended up, there's no flat surface on here really whatsoever with space behind it for a gauge. So I ended up making a little bracket, and I put a little slit in the bracket because I already put the thermostat in, or the temperature sending unit, whatever you want to call it, in the block and poured antifreeze in it. And I said, oh crap, if I pull that out, it's going to leak antifreeze out everywhere. So I made a nice little bracket. Well, not nice. I wanted to do a little better and make it kind of filled in around here, but heck with it. I ain't got time for all that. And I really wanted it up here, but it'll be okay down there. Hopefully, haven't sat on the tractor, as you can see stuff everywhere, but I think it'll work good. So hopefully it's about dark now, but maybe tomorrow I can get this thing out and running and work in the garden a little bit. I got to cultivate and I got to replant some stuff. I planted too early this year. I don't think the soil temperature was warm enough, and I've got to replant some green beans. So I got to get my planter hooked up, and hopefully this thing will do good for me. But I think we're good to go, hopefully. Got it gassed up, antifreeze full, and the only thing that really was worse for wear is my little cup holder over here. It got kind of bent up. So I put that can in there, hopefully it'll stretch it back out. But we'll see how it goes. Well, I got it out and got the planter hooked up. I had just a mild panic attack because I was trying to crank it up and the fan was hitting. And I had to beat that out a little bit and hit my radiators. Hopefully it doesn't leak. But anyway, the gauge seems to be working. I haven't quite got it up to temperature yet, but just running it around, getting this hooked up. And I'm going to check all the fluids again and pray this doesn't look like it's got chocolate milk. It definitely looks like it needs some oil. Well, I've used this thing with the planter and the cultivator for probably an hour, hour and a half, and I was reading originally, I knew you're supposed to torque the head bolts after an hour of use is what they recommended. Well, last time I didn't do that. I was really busy and just didn't have time. Figured it'd be fine. So, but this time I did. And surprisingly enough, I mean, it's kind of a pain to get in there now and do it with the gas tank on and the hood on, but about a third of them actually turn about an eighth of a turn or so. So apparently that's a good idea after you run it for an hour to let them warm up, and I guess they may stretch a little bit and retorque them. So I'm gonna actually, I've got to do a lot of planting today, and I'm gonna plant a bunch of sweet corn and field corn, and I'm probably going to check them again and torque them one more time just to be certain, because I want to give that head all the chance it can get and know it's not just my error and that it actually needs a new head, if that's what's going on with it. So with the temperature gauge and retorquing those, hopefully this time will be good. Well, after retorquing the head bolts, everything seems to be going good. It's March now. This was back in the end of July when the video was made. And I kind of wanted to hold on to it to kind of just see, how it would go. And I just done one kind of similar to it, which was pretty much what it really was. It was doing the exact same thing. So I just kind of held off on it and wanted to wait until I could give an update on it and let you know how it went. So everything's been going good. I did a ton of work with it as far as gardening, and I've done a bunch of scraping and moving dirt and all kinds of stuff. So everything has held up really well, and I'm super happy. I think if it ever happens again, I'm just gonna have to get a new head, because that one, if you go back and watch the first video, I show where the head was a little bit pitted in some areas, and I was a little concerned on how it was gonna work out. And I don't know if it was that or if it was just I did not retorque the head bolts. So if you ever do a head gasket on an 8N, or really anything that recommends to retorque the head bolts after an hour, make sure you do it. So I feel like a big idiot, but that's just the way it goes. It's part of learning, part of working on your own stuff. And I always will know. I will never forget that. That is a lesson that I learned and will never forget. So I hope you liked the video. I hope you leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.